Welcome to the Creating Kinder Content series. Today I have with me Palakh Khanna, the CEO of Break the Ice, a big little superstar. Palakh's journey from introvert to a confident person in public spaces reflects how passionately, honestly, Palakh has been working on herself, and it's the change that this world has been craving for. The fact that we can work on ourselves, the biggest projects we all have, and then how that can impact just maybe even one person, but that entire world changes for this person that we're trying to impact. And that is what we all need to do. I would say a lot more about this one, but I really want you to just experience Palakh in her own authentic self. And I can't wait for you all to experience her magic. Palakh, thank you for joining us on Creating Kinder Content. And I cannot wait for you to first introduce yourself through all this inner work that you have done in this really short span that you've been on planet Earth in 3 words that best describe you.
That's a lot of pressure. I'm thinking 3 words would definitely have change maker in it. The second one might be empathy, because I'm someone who knows the difference between sympathy and all of that. So I feel like I am empathetic. So that would be the second one. Growth. I am someone who's very passionate about growth, whether mental, emotional, skills, all of it. So yeah, I think someone who's very obsessed about.
Thank you for that. That was amazing. And I want to also know the words that you've picked up. So you've picked up actually 4 words, but I think we'll just take change maker as one. Change maker, empathetic, and someone who loves growth. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So are these words that you were given when you were younger, or were these words that you sort of, well, you are very young, so I can't imagine being any younger than that. But for everybody who's watching, your Palakh is just hit her 20s. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So are these words that were given to you when you were younger, or are these words that you're discovering about yourself as you grow up?
I think both. As when I said change maker, I have been a massive introvert throughout my life. Honestly, one that didn't even know how to express her feelings. But a lot of my teachers used to say, "What are you passionate about?" And I used to say, "If anything, I'm passionate about social impact." And they used to say, okay, even if you call yourself an introvert, you can always be someone who creates change silently, or if you want to be out loud and help others do it. So yeah, I think that's a self and everybody around me used to. Growth is something I'm discovering. It happened once I became an entrepreneur. I started content when I was like, wow, I'm like becoming better. So I take it as a positive, but yes, that's also something anxiety and nervousness within me. So that's a second thing. But and the third thing is empathy. I feel like everybody's always said you are someone who always tries to understand the other person's situation. You try to go that extra mile to say, okay, what's up with you? Is it okay if I ask more about your life? If I step into, I think they're a mix. I think I know those things about me, and people have also reinforced them.
Amazing. Thanks for that. And I think when you say you have this anxious energy about you, because I think I've been in similar shoes. I still am in those same shoes, but probably a little bit far apart on the age. But I think it's not anxious. I think it's the fact that you're very driven. And I think sometimes people confuse that word for a negative connotation. But anxiety is actually great, because it can be borderline curious. It can be passionate. It could be hyper energy, because you're so like, I'm running out of time. I need to do this in life in general. So that's good. That's great. But because we want to know, since you've gone from being an introvert and you've done a lot of work on yourself, of course, clearly, we want to know, is there some sort of random act or like an experience that you would like to share with us where you sort of felt like, somebody went out of their way to make you recognize that, look, Palakh, you can be this person and you should probably, take a leap of faith. And then in that moment, you probably felt the impact, right? And I think for me personally, that's how I want everyone to feel, which is why this podcast. So I want you to share if there's an experience similar with
Definitely. I don't think there's been one event or like one moment where I was like, oh my God, this has changed me forever. I think there've been moments where I was like, okay, I do believe that a lot of people are out there to support me. Whether it's like mentors who are so the most random experiences, right? I landed up on LinkedIn because I wanted to learn about how founders, they talk about their companies when I became an entrepreneur myself. And one fine day, someone reaches out to me that I want to be your mentor. And I was thinking, okay, this person would of course say in it for me, right? Because why would someone do it for free? And then they come back saying, no, but I just want to support your growth pro
Yeah.
bono. And that's when
Yeah.
I realized that, hey, there are people really just want to support me in my growth. So I think those moments where I was like pleasantly surprised as to just that there are kinder people out there, because we're talking about kindness. I would always say that, yeah, those were the moments where I was like, wow, there are people who are kinder. And I
Yeah.
do the same thing with the other people. Wherever I feel like I can help others, I I always say, okay, I will do this pro bono. Just tell me how and where I can help. So
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And I really like that because I mean, I completely resonate. I've had people like that who've gone out of their way, even though they've been much more successful and busy at that time when we were starting off. But I think the one thing that I've recognized, and I want to know how you feel about this, is when someone is helping someone pro bono, you're actually learning also with yourself what the younger audience is like and what is it that
Yeah.
these people are sort of, like sussing out your new audience. So it's a win-win situation for both.
Yeah.
At both ends, but since it's not my podcast, can you then tell me how, or do you believe, or do you not believe, kindness, do you think affects your own well-being and happiness at some point, or is it just a give out energy process?
Oh no, no, not at all. I think it's both. It is a two-way street, because when you are kinder to people, it also helps you become better at understanding yourself. And because I talk about taboos, right, about mental health very openly through my organization, I've always felt like people are ignoring their mental health.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
kindness and being kind and also getting kindness in return, it'll only happen when you are also kinder to the person that want to receive that warmth from. So it's always like a two-way street. Happens, I think it supports your mental well-being so much, and your mental well-being is everything. So everything else that you want to achieve, so for me, if I want to achieve something monetary, if I want to see some growth, if I want to see something in my career, I know that unless and until I am mentally sound and I'm like stable in my mental health, at least I'm self-aware. I know I'm very, very stable in my mental health, but I'm very anxious. So when you also acknowledge those feelings and then you
Yeah.
become kinder to people, I think that's how life becomes better. I don't know if that sounds very philosophical, but that's my idea of it. That number one, be kind so that you get that kindness in return, so that it improves your mental health and ultimately improves your quality of life, basically.
I don't know if it sounds philosophical because I'm not a philosopher, but it does sound very Palak. So thank you for sharing that. And I 100% agree. In fact, I think because you work on the mental health space as much, I think you'll also probably agree to the fact that a lot of the times in the world that we live in, because we're so mental health unfriendly as a world, there are a lot of people just assume that if you're honest about, hey, I'm having a tough day, hey, I'm really struggling, that you won't find that support. But I don't think it's true, because people who work on themselves, or if you just reach out to someone, I think by and large, yeah, there are a couple of exceptions which always exist, but I think if you actually reach out for help, you will find it. As long as you're honest and you recognize that the other person might give me a chance, I think you should always ask, right? Because you
Yeah,
don't know who's going
absolutely.
to end up holding your hand and saying, let's do this together. So I think that's, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. So very Palak indeed. But so then you're also saying that kindness is a two-way street. It helps you. And so then is it safe to say that if you incorporate like simple acts of kindness in your everyday lives, that this world by and large can get better? And if so, what are these simple acts of kindness that you think we'd like to
Wow.
spread around?
That is a beautiful question. I think it is very, very subjective. Of course, it depends on where do you also want to receive that warmth. And like I said, if it is a two-way street and you're doing it to also get it back, do the steps that you feel if someone else did it. For me, the most basic one is if I get a compliment in a day, I know it makes me happy for the entire day. It's like the
Oh,
most
wow.
simplest thing. And even if I don't even know if the other person meant it or not, but I know in my mind, and I know it's like human nature that we remember those positive things as well, right? So it might make someone else's day. And one follow, I think, is that you always have to smile. I mean, go to every room with a very big smile, because it's infectious, and people will then have lesser, also lesser, I don't know, conversation anxiety also. Because if
Yeah.
you're going to a room full of strangers, people should not feel like it's awkward. Just smile and just make them happy also. Like, just smile. I think that's the very, very simple thing. I do this in college every day. Everybody looks strained. I just enter college and I'm smiling. And it just makes the entire energy of the room better. So, very, very small way of being, again, I won't say kinder, but a little bit more conscious of being a little kind. Because if
Yeah.
you're smiling, you're entering the room, you're complimenting a few people. And if you mean those compliments, it's the best thing. But if you really want to go deep into how can you be kind, like I mentioned initially, try to help or support someone in whichever way possible. I don't mean monetary. Honestly, I've never actually
Yeah.
helped someone monetary myself. But maybe through acts, I used to teach underprivileged children. So whichever small way in which you can just support someone through the resources which are available to you very easily, do that. I think that's a more deeper way of doing it. But smaller acts would be smiling, complimenting, all of that.
I love that. I love that because I completely agree. I think the one thing that I would like to firstly tell you, you have a very beautiful smile. I have to
Thank
say
you.
this because one of the reasons that I think, because you and I met at an event
Mhm.
where you were, I will acknowledge, for whatever miscommunication that happened at the planner's end as well, you arrived late. We were all waiting for Palak. And we were all like, when is this going to start? We're all so busy, but we were trying to soak in the environment. But walks in Palak, and Palak is not just saying what she's saying. I think the reason I wanted to highlight this was that when she walked in, she gripped all of us by just smiling and waiting for us to smile back. You're not even taking a hello. You're not even waiting for that. You're like, first smile back at me. And I think that's such a powerful emotion to bring out of someone, because you suddenly melted how I am feeling like, oh, she's late or she doesn't respect that time. You're like, no, hi, I know I'm late, but it's okay. Life happens. And I think that was a very comforting moment to start off with. So thank you for being who you are. And I know for someone
Thank you.
who does try and do that myself,
Mhm.
that a lot of the times the people are actually smiling on the outside have had probably a rough day themselves. So it takes a lot of gumption, it takes a lot of courage. But I hope that you continue being the smiley one, because you do change the room. So thank you for that. And we're going to move on.
That's so sweet.
It's true. It's true. I'm just saying, for everybody who's watching and you think Palak is being philosophical, she means this because that's what she's honestly doing. Now, because you also said what you're sort of just sharing with us, I want to then also have you play out, because you're working with, say, Break the Ice, on then,
Mhm.
since we're all agreeing on the kindness subjects, how do you think then can kindness help us in fostering a sense of connection and community, especially in this interconnected yet very impersonal digital world that we're all living in? What do you think we
Mhm.
could do? Or did you think kindness doesn't matter online?
Oh, wow. No, I would number one say that kindness is actually one of the most important things online, because now that boundaries are blurred in every, I say this every place I go, because I've realized that so many people have realized it, that the digital, offline, personal, public world today is honestly, all of them are very similar. There are very, very minor details that get left out from your personal life when you also release it on social media, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like you have to be a little more kinder. I see, even if I take the very simplest example of the internet, you would see so many negative people out there who are just adding violence, adding hatred, trolling people for the smallest of things, right? And I'm not talking public figures, I'm talking about people who maybe are suffering in their lives, and
Yeah.
they're kind of projecting those insecurities online. I've seen it everywhere. And I always feel like those people, you can get angry at them, right? But another way of looking at it is maybe to connect with their loved ones. Of course, we can't do this for the millions of people who are adding negative comments to every post. But I think at their own personal levels, they should connect with their close ones, tell them what's going on, understand if this is like it's an issue they are facing, or they feel like this is just an insecurity. Because I feel insecure about a lot of things in my life. But it's number one, acknowledging that something might be going wrong. Is it that serious? Or maybe I am overthinking and creating that seriousness. And
Yeah.
if it is serious, if the answer is yes, if this is very, very serious, then maybe getting the help. So I think
Yeah.
that angle to it, because again, we talk about taboos, so I've realized half of the people are not aware of what's going on with them. Is it just a hate comment because I hate this person online? Or is it because I hate that they have everything I've always wanted? There's a
Yeah.
very, very clear distinction between those two things. So, yeah, I think people need to be more kinder in the online world, because we have to exist together. And I love that the online world has helped us connect with people who are sitting in a different continent. But I hate it at the same time, because again, this hatred and this creates a lot of issues as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm
And
connecting
I
with
think,
someone online, so
yeah,
yes.
no, I completely agree. I think it's also really important for all of us to recognize, whichever age, wherever we come from, that what we see online, we may want, But has anybody ever even wondered what may have been in my destiny could have been so much better than what I know is what I want? But now because I've seen it, I'm like, yeah, this is what and I'm manifesting it. I'm just like, this, just that much I want and I'll be happy. But you're actually pushing away the fact that if you do your work, you might be worthy of something much more. So if we all start manifesting
True.
our own lives while doing our own work, I think we'll make a better world for all of us
Yeah,
included,
true.
not just outside. But this is lovely. I'm going to now, as long as I'd like to want to continue hearing what you're saying, move into the quickie question round,
Okay.
because I want you to not take too long and give me quick answers to the following questions. Are you ready? It's a lot like rapid fire, but I just don't like how rapid fire sounds. But yeah, but we're
Yes.
doing it. Yeah. Okay. What
Yes.
is your go-to kindness quote or motto that inspires you the most?
That you need to be kind first and then expect it from others.
Lovely. And if kindness, according to you, had a color, what color do you think it would have and why?
Oh wow. I think yellow. I don't know why. I don't like the color yellow. I just think when you look at it, you feel like it's comfort. So
Why don't
yellow.
you like the color yellow?
I mean, it's not that it's my favorite color. That's why I say yellow. I think when you look at it, you kind of feel comfort. It
Warmth and
gives that,
sunshine.
yes, yes.
All right. If color, sorry, I'm actually supposed to go faster, but if kindness was a superpower, what superpower would you like for it to have on you?
On me, um,
And what is this superpower?
that I would give myself. I would more focus more. If I could have been more kinder to myself, and if kindness had that power, I would tell myself to also focus on self care. If that makes sense.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
If kindness was a sound, what sound would it make and why?
I don't know. Maybe a mother comforting her child. I think that's
So the sound
also,
of a mother. Yeah.
yes.
Lovely. If kindness were a food, what would it taste like?
Chole bhature.
Virat Kohli hang out here. All right. And if because I am the owner of this podcast, so I'm going to make you the international minister for kindness.
Oh
Now
wow.
you're on this actual designation, so you're responsible for organizing. So you have to pick a day. Which day are you doing this? What are people doing across the world, and what are you calling this day?
Wow.
Details.
I would say let's do it on 1st January, the moment you enter the year. This would be called being a little kinder to ourselves. This is the day. This is what we call the day. And you can do anything that makes you very happy as long as it's not violent or troubling anyone else, to be kinder to yourself. I think we talk about kindness to other people, but we have to also focus on ourselves someday. So 1st January, then I'm announcing it as the kindness minister. To just focus on yourself. If that means chilling in bed, if that means creating some change outside, if that means just journaling your feelings out, whatever kindness means to you for you, do that on 1st January.
Lovely. And if the kindness minister was to prefer surprise acts of kindness or a planned act of kindness, which one would you pick and why?
Wow. I think has to be compliments. Let's just compliment everyone. It'll be so much fun to compliment everyone in this
So
world.
surprise compliment.
Yes. Just go to the street. Imagine a minister just going to the street and complimenting everyone on that street. That's so much fun. I would love to do that.
I love that, because I think the one thing that I think this theme has been consistent with your podcast has been validating people's efforts, and the fact that I think just showing up even for yourself is one of the kindest things that all of us are doing right now, given the world that we've come in post-pandemic. Just showing up is enough. That's it. That's all you really need to do, because you're right. Like, none of us really know what we're doing, but we're working. All of us are work in progress. Great. And if you had the superpower to be able to make someone instantly happy, or have to choose between, say, for example, make someone burst into laughter or instantly feel loved and cared for, which one would you choose and why?
Wow. Loved and cared for.
Why?
You would automatically also have those feelings of laughter. Like, you'll enjoy those moments more, because a burst of laughter might end in like the next 2-3 minutes, right? But when you're loved, I think that feeling stays for longer.
Lovely. I'm really enjoying this. If kindness was, this is your last question for this segment. If kindness were a dance move, what would it look like?
It'll look like the random dance move that people do when they're really happy. Like the happy dance, like people call it the happy.
Yeah.
Just random dancing when you feel like nobody's looking.
So the fat guy in Hitch, basically.
Yes.
Okay, lovely. Thank you for that. Palak, I think I usually would end my podcast here of exchange, but I think for you particularly, having been one of my youngest guests, I need you to share with us, what do you think is kindness for this generation that we're waiting to come in and take over and become the change makers in the world? What do you think, is it that the elders in the audience or the elders in our generations are missing out completely? Because beginning to get a little bit saturated by the fact that things need to be a certain way, because someone has said this is the right thing to do and this is where your focus should be, or this is you're successful at this point, or like women do it this way, men do it this way. I need from the younger audience to tell us, where do you think the older generation is kind of losing their plot?
I think one of them, I think we've talked about this throughout the podcast, is that I don't think, I tell this to my mom also, that you're not focusing on being kind to yourself. Yeah. I don't think everybody I won't say it's a age thing. I think it's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like our generation, like my generation, is slightly more understanding of what self-care means. And I think by the time the next generation comes, they know, what is self-care for them. I know it sounds like a very fancy idea and people are now pushing it forward, through products, but it's really important to know what is self-care for me. So I think that's one thing where the older generations, I don't think they talk about it too much. They don't talk about self-care. They talk about family. They talk about how can I be kinder to other people. They don't talk about kindness to themselves. The second thing might be, since you mentioned gender, and that's a thing I'm very passionate about, I think also being kinder to everyone, irrespective of the differences that we have created, not just gender, not just age, not just race, but everything. And I think, like I said, we talk about taboos, so we've realized that these differences, they have existed for a while. If we can be kinder to everyone, irrespective of discriminating them on anything, if it's a young person, if it's a female, and from maybe the other genders, you just really need to be like, we'll treat them equally. Let's see how that goes. I think that small step of just taking that angle and mindset to it, I think that can also work very well.
I love that. And thank you for sharing it, because I agree. I think a lot of the times that we sort of talk about kindness, I think a lot of people sort of miss it out for, it's not important. We'll do it when we're older. Like right now, I have priorities and I have duties and all of that. But I think we're not taught kindness. We're not taught how to take care of ourselves. We're not taught what makes us happy. I think that's such a long journey. And by the time you start discovering it, at least for our generation, we're about a decade apart. Our generation, we're just like, okay, let's be successful first, and then you realize I am successful, but am I happy? Is this making me happy? We don't have enough and more examples, even in common narrative, that sort of tell us that, having your favorite job is probably not going to make you happy. Ending up married to the person you dreamt of being married to is probably not going to make you happy. And sometimes that just happens because you don't know yourself. You've just never hung out with yourself. So thank you for sharing that. And on that note, I also want to then have you highlight, before you leave us for this podcast, is differentiate between self-care and selfish, because I'm a little bit on a borderline of there are a lot of people who are maybe becoming selfish and not considerate when taking care of themselves. Is that just my perspective, or is that what you guys are also working towards?
No. So I'll give you my personal opinion on this. I think the internet might help more people if they have the question like the audience. But I think personally, what I've realized is being selfish is choosing yourself over everyone else. That's not. Self-care is running through a day, but then keeping 1 or 1.5 hours for yourself in that day to then just focus on yourself. So it's not like you are focusing only on yourself. You're working, you're with your other people, you're being kind to them, you're enjoying your day. But at the end of the day, you're like, but I need those 30 minutes to also introspect, to understand where my feelings are, where my emotions are. For me, I give 30 minutes every day to journaling. I know that's my self-care moment and my selfless slot in the day, honestly. So I think, that's the difference. Selfish is you're on yourself for 100% of the day, and just really choosing yourself over everyone else. Being focusing on self-care is giving yourself that time to at least introspect, to understand where you're going wrong, and also connecting with other people. Self-care for some people on a walk and talking to a lot of people. If that works for you, go ahead. So self-care is honestly very, very personal. It doesn't really have to do anything with choosing yourself over other people, but yourself also some time to just focus on your emotions. So yes, that's
Thank you. That is the younger generation telling us how to take better care of ourselves. And I know that I said that this was your last question a couple of times, but you keep pushing me, so it's fine since it's our own podcast. Uh, I promise I'll try this making this my last question as long as you don't instigate further. Why are you this person? I need to know who has taught you to be this self-aware and where have you learned to be kind to yourself from?
Oh wow. I think nobody taught me. I was an introvert, and that's when I started observing other people, observing myself as well. I've always been very aware. I've always said this that yes, I'm an introvert. I'm trying to improve. I'm kind of also happy being an introvert because you get time with yourself, right? So throughout my school life, I used to focus on my emotions. I was aware of I am anxious. I'm also a nerd. I want to focus on these things, but yes, I have to improve communication with people. Fast forward to the pandemic. I overheard a conversation between my mom and my domestic help. She's been with us for around 6 years, and she had had her periods at our place, right? And she was very uncomfortable asking for pads. And I was thinking, she's supposed to be comfortable with us because she's been with us for so long, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I opened my organization to talk. And that's when I realized now this is a leap of faith because I'll have to talk to people. Because being an entrepreneur is all about talking to people. So yeah, that's when I started like just conversing with more people and I got to know more about myself. So I've not been very self-aware of whether I'm ambitious or, that's been the journey that I've had for the past 2 years. But yes, I've focused on observing other people, being empathetic, not just, judging a lot of people instantly, and very self-aware. I've always known.
I like that.
Yes, so I've always known, but nobody's actually taught me. My mom's been the support who's kind of guided me that hey, this is going wrong. I think you should know yourself a little bit better. But I think other than that, I think it helped.
I think we need more parents this way because I think it's really important that we don't want our kids to become like us, because I feel like sometimes parents, because they're also parenting for the first time, they feel like because this has worked for us, this should work for our kids, they'll be safe this way. But I think it's important that everybody recognizes that we're all individuals on our own journeys, and yes, we're born within the family structures, but the fact that we are sent here and our biggest project is ourselves, we just need someone who can support us, who can have faith in us, and just say, go do whatever, this is your safe space, come back to us, we'll love you. Even if you fall, we'll help you stand back up, even if you don't know how to stand back up in the moment, but just go be yourself, be your best version. And I think we need more parents like your mom. So thank you for sharing that. And because you have been so kind and so sincere and authentic, and I really enjoyed everything that you've done for us, I don't want you to feel like I've sucked out all your energy. So if there was anything that I could do to fill your energy pool back, you can ask me a question, you can share a feedback or whatever.
I loved the experience. Specifically, the moment I read that it's a kindness podcast, I was like, I have to be a part of this. Yay. This is too cool to not be a part of. So I love the initiative. But yes, I also had a question. This would be a question you've already been asked thousands of times. But how do you also, to yourself and to other people? How do you do it?
Actually, no one's ever asked me, so thank you. I think the kindest thing I do for myself and for those around is active listening, followed by honesty, not just for people around myself, but also for myself. So I'm actively listening to myself at all points. I'm honest to myself, and if and where required, I need other people, or other people may need my, time or energy or effort for their journeys, because I understand that everyone's on their diverse journey. If and when I'm required, or I need someone else on my journey, then I know that I'm honest from start, and rest assured that I have listened to you before I've made my word or promise or commitment. I think active listening is one of the first steps to being kind to each other, because that's a place where you sort of put yourself outside your own self and your own needs and your requirements, and you're opening up yourself for the other person's world and what they may need out of you. So whether it is empowerment, whether it is validation, whether it's a time for them to be able to reason out why they're feeling a certain way, or where their honesty is coming from, or they need support, or there could be, misunderstandings and miscommunications if, you don't agree on something right from the start. That could be avoided if you're just actively listening to each other before you are honest with each other. So I think that is a gateway part one. And then I think honesty is something that not only do I give out, but it's also a fundamental that I expect from the people and opportunities that I am committed to. And that's something that I expect for myself as well. It's a standard that I am building on, and I always have been, but I think I've become even more strict about it as we grow. Yeah. So active listening followed by honesty.
I'm relating on so many things here. I think I'm just adding, like, in addition to what you were saying, the listening side, right?
Yeah.
Again, I think nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about
Absolutely.
how you need to be a good listener. It will
Yeah.
be wonderful.
Absolutely. I think because I take it for granted, I'm actually glad that you've highlighted that. I think it'll be a good skill for everyone to learn, because I think it's so important for people to understand that you cannot proceed in life unless you're listening to each other. That's the first, listening to yourself, listening to others. And that's where honesty then comes out of. That's second step. Because a lot of times we recognize people now overpromise, overdeliver, overcommit before they actually listen to the brief. And so, if you've got your foundation wrong, you obviously not only end up hurting yourselves, but you're also hurting everybody around you, because you have. It's worse than a lie, right? Because if you're not listening, you're lying to them. You're dishonest about your presence there. You're disrespecting them by not being in that space when you're physically saying, "I'm here. I'm listening to you." What is being on a phone, or not honestly sort of understanding or putting yourself aside and being a part of someone's process and communication is the first form of disrespect and being unkind. And so I think it's really important that people learn to acknowledge and be accountable for the fact that I'm listening and then I'm promising. It can't be the other way around, because that's where most miscommunications and misunderstandings happen. I say this out of my own knowledge and my inner work, that I'm someone who is an active listener, especially when it comes to my role in my life or somebody else's life where they've invited me in to fulfill a part or something that they need me for. I'm definitely listening, and then I will let you know if I can do or not do. I'm very, very, very conscious of that. And I understand that people are on diverse journeys. So I'm also very cognizant of that. And then at that particular point, I will make sure that I do anything to fulfill that promise. I've actually flown oceans while I was bedridden to fulfill commitments and promises without my doctor being happy about it or my family not being convinced. I was like, no, I have made this commitment. It's my honesty to myself and the fact that someone has shown faith in me to be able to live up to that promise. And I expect that in return on the days where I have been promised and I have been committed to the honesty that I have displayed or have communicated right from get-go. So I'm very cognizant of the fact that active listening is critical to kindness, and it's non-negotiable.
It's wonderful.
This is amazing. I'm so glad that I got to meet you and we've had you on the podcast. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I hope you have a great day and continue to smile, because I think your smile is changing the world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Palakh.